object in particular is not an ordinary object. The idea is that it's unclear and ambiguous. So when this object is first spotted, we don't know exactly what it is, right? We don't know exactly what it is, and this creates intrigue and it creates some tension. It makes the reader want to figure out what this object is. So the idea behind this is that as your character moves closer to this object and they discover what it is, that's what takes us to step 4, which is the flashback. So rather than your story having a very boring, linear sort of path where it has beginning, middle, and end, instead, we have a flashback, and it's important that the flashback is relevant, okay? Do not, have an object that could be, let's say a football, and all of a sudden flashback is about your character, I don't know, being in space, and it's got nothing to do with the football. Make sure that the object has some relevance, so the character's emotionally attached to the object, and that when there's a flashback, this is where we get context, okay? So we get some context onto that particular object, why it's significant, why it's important. And of course, it's going to take the character through a bit of an emotional journey. It's up to you what that emotion is, right? Whether this flashback brings anger, whether this flashback brings regret, it's completely up to you. And then the 5th step is we return to the present moment. And it's important that when we return to the present moment, the weather will either intensify, or it will change completely. So what that might look like is, let's say your character prior to this flashback was very upset. They might have a positive flashback and end with, sunshine and rainbows, and this reflects how the memory had a positive outcome or had a positive sort of impact on their feelings. It could also be that your character was very sad and upset prior to the flashback, and after the flashback, they now are angry or furious. And so our weather goes from sort of rain and clouds to thunder and lightning, crashing winds. So the idea behind this plan is that if you're, again, an individual, you're going into your exam tomorrow, question 5, you've got nothing ready, you don't even know what to write about, you see a picture, you see a prompt, and you're stuck. Having this 5-step plan, you don't necessarily need to have the most interesting plot here. The plot is there for you. It's engaging enough, okay? It's engaging enough. So you set the mood, step 1. You introduce the character, step 2. And remember, you're being descriptive here. This is an image prompt, so you're being very descriptive and you're really dragging out these moments and painting a picture as clear as you possibly can for the reader. Step 3, you zoom in on an object in the distance. So in the corner of my eye, I noticed what looked like. And then as your character gets closer and closer to it, we then have that flashback. The flashback triggers, again, you've got your writer structural techniques being employed here, and the reader is engaged. They want to read on. They want to know why this object is significant, why it gets its own flashback moment. And then when you return to the past, it's completely up to you. Whether you want the mood to follow the mood that was at the beginning and it slightly intensifies, or whether you want to completely change the mood is up to you. So I would love to, of course, sit here and go through an entire question 5 and write the world's most amazing story for you, but we are out of time, okay? So with this, I just want to leave a few tips and reminders, okay? So you've got the exam tomorrow. It's a morning exam. It is comprehension, okay? The source that you'll be getting is not going to be an enormously long source. It's going to be a page to a page and a half. You are simply looking for what's in front of you. You don't need to memorize anything. You don't need to take anything into the exam with you. You just need to understand what each question is asking you to do. So even if you haven't done any revision up until this moment, right? If you haven't done any revision up until this moment, at the very least, what you can do to help yourself is make sure that you understand what each question is requiring you to do. So question 2, right, is language analysis. Question 3 is structural analysis. right? Question 4 is our evaluation. Question 5 is our creative writing question. And for each one, the important thing is that we need to make sure we have an idea of what we're about to do. You cannot go into the exam not knowing what question 2 asks us to do, not knowing what question 3 asks us to do. Because at least if we know what it asks us to do, we just need to apply it to the source in front of us. So for question 5, a page and a half minimum is what you should aim for. A page and a half. How do you lead back into the present? So, for example, let's say your character approaches this object. You might include something like, in a flash, I found myself transported back to a moment when. And then you would describe that moment in detail, right? And when you're bringing your character back into the present, it might simply be a smooth transition where the character immediately realized why they arrived in the first place, or you could go back to that object being in their hand. So you're in the flashback, and then your character realizes that feeling of this particular object in their hand, and that would be absolutely fine as well. Okay, so anything that you see in the picture you can use to give you ideas. There might be something in the background, there might be some colors for you to describe. Okay, anything that is in the image you can describe and talk about. So remember, the plot isn't the most important thing. What's important is that you have a clear structure, your story can be followed. We know where the beginning is, we know where the middle is, we know how it ends, and that you are using ambitious vocabulary where you can. Include figurative language, that's also really important, okay? But there is nothing to really be worried about. Out of most of the exams that you'll do, and this might, upset a few people, but out of most of the exams that you'll do, English language is one of the easier ones because, again, everything you need is right in front of you, okay? When it comes to inference and what a quote suggests, try to remember that if what you're saying is really obvious, it's probably not worth the top marks, okay? So if what you're saying is so noticeable, like that tree in the middle of a room when you open the door, then that means you are going for the easier option. So if you want to be confident that your answer is sort of top level, firstly, is what you're saying noticeable, meaning that you don't need to find anything else in the text to prove it, and that what you're saying is justifiable, it makes sense, okay? Question 4, a lot of people are mentioning question 4. I will just repeat again with question 4, and I'll sort of be cutting off after this, right, because it's quite late. I need to be up in the morning for that exam as well. But with question 4, essentially what we want to do is, once we've read our statement, we want to pick a side, whether we strongly agree, whether we partially agree, whether we strongly disagree, partially disagree, and we want to think of 3 different reasons why. You need to be careful that you're not saying the same thing, okay? That your argument is a different example, but simply arguing the same thing. So back to the analogy I gave, right, when I was mentioning, Man United being better than Arsenal, right? If I was going to present that as my arguments, I wouldn't turn around and say, that Man United have beaten Chelsea, they've beaten Man City, because even though that sounds like 2 different arguments, I'm basically saying that they've beaten a good team. So I'm repeating myself, just using separate examples. For question 4, you want to make sure you've got 3 different reasons, and you use 3 pieces of evidence to support that. So make sure that after this, again, if you still have a little bit of revision left to go, at the very least, make sure you know what each question is asking you to do. Have an idea of what you are going to be structuring your responses like, and use the time wisely, okay? Don't spend too much time on one question. I would personally recommend working backwards, so question 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but it really is whatever you feel comfortable with, okay? So I do appreciate everyone for joining. Okay, in the future, of course, we're going to have a lot more of these sort of live streams, breaking things down. Sometimes we might focus on one question in detail. We will definitely be back for paper 2. So when we are back for paper 2, Hopefully everyone had a good paper one, but whether or not your paper one goes well, we will have you covered for paper two, and we'll be making sure that you have exactly what you need regarding that. So I do appreciate everyone for sticking around. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you feel a little bit better, a little bit, sort of more confident, and that this is definitely achievable for you. It is never too late. Do not write yourself off. Okay, we'll be having lives for other subjects as well. Your maths exams coming up, your science exams are coming up. So it's important to just, give it that best effort that you can, even if you're the kind of individual that might not be able to sort of, attend tuition or go to tuition in person. Do make use of the lives, do make use of, our DMs, etc. If you want to get into contact, ask some more questions, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, this is obviously just the beginning. Of course, we've got this exam tomorrow, but there's plenty more to go, and we are just here to help. Okay, we are simply here to help you guys succeed. We've all got the grades that you guys are hoping for, and we want you guys to also achieve those as well. It's doable. Don't write yourself off. Do not leave this live and end up doom scrolling on the rest of TikTok. Instead, fill your night with revision, and inshallah, tomorrow will go very, very well for each and every one of you, and it'll be a nice and easy extract for everyone to digest. So again, thank you all for your time. Hopefully we did make some progress, and after this, use the remaining, I'd say, minutes at this point of your evening to get some useful revision and practice done. Thank you guys so much for watching, for joining in, for giving us your time and attention, and hopefully tomorrow you're all going to smash it. Take care, enjoy.